Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's tournament. It is the $200 minimum 4v4 variant, of course, taking place here on March 15th, 2018. It's the voice of Lando Sanders, of course, myself, going to be doing the casting, the analysis, the hosting, everything that I really possibly can to try to talk to myself, to try to entertain you phenomenal people at home watching the stream tonight. But, of course, hopping things off in round number 1 between Midnight Gaming and Bound in A. From the side of Bound, we've got kLoH, Regulate, Fusion, and KaLaNi. And, of course, from the guys on Midnight Gaming, we've got Phantomz, ProFeeZy, Pemby, and Glory. Something to kind of keep in mind coming into this first match as far as, what players, kind of maybe even some storylines coming into this game. There aren't any, previous teammates, at least from my knowledge, as far as, kind of going from either squad. But we do have a few teams tonight who, in tonight's tournament, who have played with each other in the past. I know Market Esports has kind of been a little bit of a shambles, and they've got a few of their players kind of spread out amongst different squads. So when it comes down to storylines tonight, there definitely will be some. But as far as this match is considered, both of these teams just trying to secure their spot in the next round and trying to get a portion of that $200 prize pool. But as far as first hill is considered, a little bit of a slim lead for the boys on Bound for the time. However, things could quickly start to change as the rotation now starts to come in toward Ruins. We're seeing kLoH hop inside of the hard point. And for those who are familiar with kLoH, KaLaNi, and even one of their prior teammates, Snowhair, these guys have kind of been around the scene for a while. When it comes down to KaLaNi, I remember hearing his name back in the very olden times, when no one really was watching Call of Duty back then. 2009, to be exact. MLG National Championship. This guy was playing with Felonies, Nate Shot, guys along those lines. So definitely a veteran when it kind of comes down to the space. So definitely some things to kind of keep in mind when it comes into tonight's tournament. Got some veterans that we're going to be watching as well. Kind of old school versus new school. We'll see who obviously gets the best, as it looks like kLoH, coming from the skies, is currently on a 6 spree. Has the glide bomb along with a mortar strike in his back pocket. Along with that positive, he's also got the security of mind that his team is holding the most important hill of the entire map, that one over inside a bunker. Pemby trying to challenge this one, getting up close and personal, but missing some shots and not having really a whole lot of teammate support to make anything happen. Now take a look at the minimap quickly. You see all of those red arrows in the back of the base, the other side of the map, having to make a trek back toward the current hill in control, like we said, of Bound. But Fusion Nasty trying to hold in control of the hill, but 3 players go down quickly. But look at those spawns, though. Still coming toward back bunker. This is going to be an immediate re-challenge coming in from the boys from Bound. So while it was a quick 3 to 4 down for the moment from Bound, thankfully they do hold those spawns, and only about maybe 10 seconds could have gone the way of Midnight. But speaking of that rotation, now coming in toward that East Road hill, this is where streaks, grenades, tacticals, lethals, anything that you can really throw at a hill, it would be in use and would be very useful at this current time, as looks like Phantomz now on a 5 streak of his own. Make it 6 as one player walks right into his reticle. A quick 4 down, but a split spawn as 2 players from either kind of collective unit begin to rush themselves onto the hard point. Fusion Nasty clearing things out through inside of Ruins, but not a whole lot of progression being made, as kind of when you're making your trek back through East Road, trying to get your way toward this hard point and having that back Ruin spawn, it's very, very difficult to try to hop inside of East Road with the amount of nades that you have to eat, the amount of damage that you're taking hopping into that hard point. It's kind of like a no man's land, essentially, to try to get back inside of that hill. So after the first set of rotations, we've got the boys from Bound 99 to 63, just nearly over that century margin, as they will officially pass it. And I gotta say, I'm a little bit surprised. I thought maybe it would be the other way around. I've got to watch the guys on Midnight play quite a bit so far throughout this year. I mean, they've been on a number of different organizations. For those who have watched our matches or even kind of follow along with these guys, of course, ProFeeZy and Co have played under team names known as like the Hype Unit, Evil Within, Mad Gamers, Reign. I mean, they've played under a number of different titles, but you got to give a lot of respect for a team like that, right? Guys who have played under numerous organizations. I mean, organization changes like that. I mean, kind of swapping from org to org can really provide a number of different issues when it comes down to, you know, personal chemistry problems, or the reason why, hey, we can't find a solid organization is because maybe we're not playing to the greatest of our abilities and whatnot. So I got to give massive props to the boys currently under the name of Midnight, just because of the fact that, hey, they've stuck with it. They've obviously realized that, hey, we have something good with this squad. Something is definitely here, and they're still trying to ride it out, and they're definitely improving as time does go on. But trying to add another victory of their win column. They've played many matches so far in World War II, so you've got to imagine the communication, the chemistry that you probably gained through an entire title has to give you somewhat of an advantage. But as the time starts to tick away, lead change, swapping now over toward the boys on Midnight. They've done a great job after the second set of rotations have loaded up, and Pemby will take out a few, holding that top B-Dom position inside of Ruins. And now the question comes for the boys on Bound at this point. Where do we try to enter in from? There's about 22 seconds left. They're probably going to try to make their way toward that back bell position, just because of the realization of how important those next spawns are for the hard point. That will be inside a back bunker, but it looks like it's not going to go their way. And honestly, in that last push, we see them kind of force their way through you. It was almost like they were kind of deciding and calling out in the middle of that push that, hey, maybe we should back off. And once that kind of call up most likely comes in, they're challenging a little bit too aggressively, and so they kind of lose what could have been spawn control in their favor. However, lose some, you win some. It's all about focusing up and trying to improve on your mistakes, as KaLaNi does have a little bit of help there coming in from his teammate kLoH. It looks like a challenge after challenge going through. Fusion checking his way through fire, but it looks like it will be Pemby and ProFeeZy doing the damage just around that backside position, as Glory as well hopping inside of the hill. Keep in mind for this matchup, be looking at my man Phantomz. I've been really big on this guy so far throughout World War II. He was kind of one of the final pieces of, I want to say it was Rain at the time, or it might have been Mad. Actually, no, it was Evil Within when they actually added this exact player toward their lineup. What I was actually told, because I wasn't really familiar with Phantomz too much, I was like, you know, who is this guy? What really is the call? I'd seen, you know, from time to time, I think there was 3 players. It was actually Nihil in place of Pemby. So it's ProFeeZy, Nihil, and Glory playing in a lot of Search and Destroy tournaments and even Respawn tournaments as well. And I started to see this guy Phantomz kind of come up in a lot of their matches. And I'm like, he's not on the official team. Like, what really, kind of who is this guy? And I see that they pick him up, and I go into DMs with Glory, and I'm like, you know, who is this, you know, Phantomz guy? He's obviously a really talented player. I just don't know a whole lot about him. And apparently, he was actually got spotted through a ProFeeZy. They both live around the New Jersey area. ProFeeZy had saw him at a lot of local LAN tournaments, saw how talented he really was, and decided to add him onto his own squad. So it just goes to show, for those who maybe think that, hey, you know, I don't really have a lot of opportunities to show off my skills, hey, just go to a local LAN tournament. Never hurts. It's always a fun time. And there are local LANs everywhere, believe it or not. I thought for the longest time, I lived in the middle of nowhere. There actually were local LANs not even that far away from me, so you never know. You could have your opportunity. You could have your chance. Just a matter of stepping up to the plate. But it looks like Phantomz, speaking of his name, he is rising to the occasion right now, nearly double positive, sitting at 28 and 15, a little over a minute inside of the hill, and with a pretty decently sized lead. That second set of rotations really played a big favor for the boys on Midnight for the time. But like I said, along with that, you've got to imagine the solid respawn game coming in from both Phantomz and Glory are giving them a big momentum boost. The STGs are coming out to play, and on a map that definitely will complement that strategy. But it looks like shots coming in at long range. KaLaNi will win that particular fight versus Glory in that scenario. But Fusion trying to make his flank forward. Not a whole lot of information gained when it comes down to that particular push. But it looks like they're going to have to hop in the hill soon here, while Fusion's kind of keeping in mind the next rotation. I mean, there's still quite a bit of seconds that are going to give Midnight the victory, unless they can try to contest this hill and or take out the players. It looks like coming from the flank, ProFeeZy and co are going to be there. And that's going to be a game number 1 in the books toward the guys on Midnight, as they win this one, I believe, 250 to 129. And like I said, the man Phantomz was picking up kill after kill after kill. I don't believe he finishes off as top fragger in this match, but definitely had one of the more impressive KDs for this game as well. So Midnight, of course, not to my surprise, will obviously take game number 1 in a pretty dominant fashion. We were kind of taking a look after the first set of rotations. It was the guys on Bound who were up, I think, by what, about 40 seconds, I think, something along those lines. So they were playing pretty hot off the start, but something just really wasn't going their way. toward the kind of mid-game and late game. But let's go and take a look here at our box score. When it comes down to the hardpoint rotations, we can kind of see, of course, Bound in the logo from above, and MG stands for Midnight, for those who just, maybe not know. A little bit slower, but, obviously you can kind of get a little bit of an idea. Looks like Bound, though, for the most part, had some good control when it came down to Bunker. That's a really kind of important hill on this map. It's the money hill. A lot of times people say if you hold most control on that hardpoint, you're going to win the map a high majority of the time. Not the case, though, when it comes down to this match. It seems that on every other hill, though, it was the guys on Midnight who held pretty decent control, speaking specifically on Ruins. 60-29 disadvantage toward the guys on Midnight, and on East Road as well, 55 to just 13 seconds. We talk about East Road and kind of discuss how important of a hard point that can be, but it's also a very scrappy hill. So to see a really big change, really big difference between the two teams just goes to show who was making that rotation, who was aware of the spawns, and who was kind of holding that control once they had it officially. It just goes to show how well Midnight could do once they had early spawn control, or early hill control, rather, when it came down to that particular hard point. So with that in mind, though, guys, Midnight is now up 1-0. How does Bound respond, though? They started off hot when it came down to the hard point. How do they kind of respond when it comes into search and destroy? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody, to the $200 minimum 4v4 variant. Of course, hopping in here toward map number 2 of our current round 1 matchup. Taking place between Midnight Gaming and Bound in A. Off the break here for some St. Marie Jamal search and destroy. We're looking at the offensive team, which is going to be Bound making their way, or at least teasing their way, toward the A bomb site, but not if Phantomz has anything to say about it, as the first blood does come in from him. He's also got a stun to greet them. It looks like a few excess shots coming in from his teammate just off toward the side. A nade has been found as well, but it looks like Glory has been seeked out. Maybe a push. Maybe a flank back toward the spawn would be the answer, but Phantomz is continuing to be a thorn in the side. He wants the hat trick at the very least. Can he find it, though? And he will be granted it. 3 kills already. KaLaNi, though, has found 2. Question being, can KaLaNi get to 3 first, or can Phantomz find his ace? And if you're KaLaNi at this point, you got to be imagining, like, anyone could be flanking me at any time. I'm not sure exactly where Pemby is, but he could be flanking me and be anywhere at any time, and he's actually just right above you, there to take you out. And talk about a one-man type of play when it comes down to Phantom's overall performance on that bomb site. Just kind of not necessarily single-handedly held down that bomb, but really, he was a major factor, right? He finds 3 kills in total, a stun, nades were thrown. I mean, he was kind of just sitting toward that back lookout post area and really halted the overall push that the guys from Bound were trying to make. So talk about a thorn in the side type of situation, really kind of spoiled the party for round 1. If we know anything about search and destroy in general, escaping under your offenses with victories, especially in early rounds, is incredibly important, and a lot of the times can be a major factor as to why you either have the advantage or can at times even dominate a search and destroy. Pemby coming through the skies with an early nade, and this is something that I've actually seen from this guy a lot throughout World War II, as he also finds nice wallbang there on diffusion, is that whenever I've seen any roster with Pemby on it, they're usually pretty decent when it comes down to their early nades, their pre-nades and whatnot. So I'm not sure if he just kind of provides that extra factor, or if he just kind of makes sure he's around teammates that know the game in and out. But got to be looking out every time now for Midnight Gaming on those pre-nades. Absolutely deadly. And taking down numbers, or at least making numbers weak early on, can be the key to finding that first and or second blood. But Phantomz challenging heavily onto Regulate, not wanting to hop off of that bomb, and who wouldn't? With a head glitch like that, going to be very, very difficult to take him out. Unfortunately, he's already tossed out his stun and has no utility to work with, as I like to imagine how many bullets have probably gone into the body of Regulate. Phantomz is almost not even, I was going to say, almost ran out of ammo at this point, but if you're in Phantom's situation, you are just trying to find a pick, trying to take him out, but props to Regulate. I mean, a lot of players in this situation would maybe have gotten taken out. They would have got a little bit angry at the fact that, hey, I'm not even taking out this guy. Like, what can I do? Can I get a little bit over patient? But kind of funny to see in back-to-back situations, granted different. But in total, though, one player kind of holding on to a site, not really moving from a position, and a round is won by it. So round number 2 obviously was Regulate. Didn't really need to find a kill to do it. And obviously in round 1, it was Phantomz who was able to escape with the hat trick. And as you're going to see him kind of rotate toward the exact same position, early stun to not actually find anyone. But on the opposite end, the nades are through. ProFeeZy is quickly trying to turn the tide. A current 2v2 to make it a 1v2. KaLaNi was up for about maybe a second and a half before he ends up getting taken down as well. And I believe this actually might be a hat trick coming in from Glory, or maybe just the overall Bronze Star. But I want to say Glory, I can't remember how many kills he actually finds. Okay, it's only just 2. I thought for some reason he might have had a hat trick in this round as well. For those who are not aware, hat trick means 3 kills. I see that all the time. What does a hat trick mean? I don't know. It's a soccer, a.k.a. football term. I like it. I think it's clever. It's also a hockey term, I'm being told. Didn't know that because I don't really watch hockey. But anyway, I'm sorry. I like to watch the NHL playoffs. I am a... apparently they're coming up soon. I didn't actually know that. I'm actually watching March Madness currently. Well, not currently, but you know what I mean. Just in general today. Big fan of sports. Esports alike. But looking on here, 2v2. Now ProFeeZy, as kLoH finds 2 quickly, he will be dropped. And ProFeeZy just narrowly trying to make his way around the corner. I think a few dolphin dives were involved in that particular situation. But one-on-one, ProFeeZy versus Regulate. And right now, if you Regulate, you have the advantage of at least having an idea where ProFeeZy position was. But to me, this is kind of an over-aggressive play coming in from Regulate. I think it just was overall great timing for ProFeeZy, right? Because he gets just around the edge of that corner. So Regulate immediately is like, okay, not there. Let me go and check below me. But still, just kind of odd timing. A little bit too aggressive rush kind of out of that corner when you're not fully aware of where the enemy could be at. But when you're facing off against ProFeeZy, right, you have that initial thought of being in a 1v1. What's he going to do? What's his overall play style? ProFeeZy likes to play fast. So it was not unorthodox whatsoever for a player of that nature to have maybe even been in the bottom of that corner just below him where he obviously checks. But speaking of quick, ProFeeZy, first player to hop inside of this B-bomb site. We're actually going to go ahead and take a look at what the objective man, KaLaNi, is doing for the time. Most kills on his lineup. And trying to add maybe toward the first blood numbers, as right now it is 3-2 as far as first bloods in favor of Midnight Gaming. And it's ProFeeZy holding strong inside of B. KaLaNi and Fusion. Back-to-back ProFeeZy and co. In a different situation as one ends up falling. KaLaNi now last alive. And we'll see if he can pick up the pieces. And he does drop Phantomz. So if he was able to clutch this one out, KaLaNi, it would overall be a 1v3 scenario, but finds one, tries to find the second, but not enough time and not enough health either, as it will be Glory there for the trade. But you got to imagine, maybe if KaLaNi could hop around that box, maybe try to re-challenge, could have been a different story, but thankfully they do hold the man count. And that's what we talk about, that early, that initial control really halts the guys from bound yet again, whether it's been on either bomb site. On offense, really, if you're bound, you're just not getting there quick enough. It's almost like you're not fast enough to get to either bomb site because at A, you're running in toward the early AR shots from Phantomz. If you make your way in toward the B-bomb site, you've got both either ProFeeZy and or Glory firing at you, and probably Pemby with a pre-nade to greet at your doorstep as well. Just having a lot of different problems. But looks like ProFeeZy actually pulling out the WAF. The WAF 28. I respect it. The only player that I've actually seen so far in this game pull it out is Fastball. Definitely can do some work in the up close and personal range. This kLoH will start to join the fight. And like I said, I talked about the WAF, right? I mean, it's a good weapon, I think. But usually when you see it on St. Marie du Mont, it's in hardpoint, and it's in the very first hardpoint instead of bottom restaurant. But looking on as players start to stack up, Glory will find 2. And now a 1v2 scenario, but isn't able to do much more than that. Apologies. Currently having a little bit of a codcaster glitch where unfortunately you have to stare at the dead bodies. That's kind of grim, I know. But I believe as kLoH does find the defuse, I want to take a look at the numbers, the score streaks that we could be having for the guys on bound. Because granted, while it is only a round victory, a defuse will add a lot of points to your overall stats. So let's go and take a look here and see if anyone is close at all. Looks like only player really in range whatsoever is going to be kLoH, and he's decently far off. Wasn't for sure how many kills he had found, just because, like I said, we had the codcaster glitch kind of come into play there. But apologies for that. And speaking on the offenses, right, what can bound do? They're a little bit too slow on either of these sites, and I was thinking maybe they kind of start to play a little bit back. They know that the stun comes forward, so they know that at least one player has got to be in this back A position, and they are sure that it is going to be Phantomz. So with the first blood found, that one coming in from Fusion, the second one actually coming in from KaLaNi as well, they're in a pretty good spot. And with holding a 4v2 advantage, personally, I'm immediately thinking bomb down. Let's try to get the bomb down. Let's try to work something, as they also drop Phantomz. Pemby going to be alive in this back corridor area. And if the kill is there, why not go for it? Totally respect that, obviously, that overall position in that case. But this is what I've seen. This is what I've seen a few teams actually try to do. When they're holding kind of big positions like that, when they're trying to make a run as far as earning score streaks to bring themselves back into a game, which is exactly what we're seeing Bound do right now, winning back-to-back rounds, is trying to stack up their score streaks, realizing that, hey, we're in a 4v1 situation. There's no way we're going to lose this as long as we hold over a bomb site. Let's not try to seek out this player. Let's worry about stacking up our score streaks. Let's worry about getting this guy his overall points to have some more successes when it comes down to the later rounds. If we lose a guy who's, up 100, who really cares, right? I mean, to a point, it's kind of a high-risk, high-reward situation, but I think in general it's an overall very smart strategy to kind of play toward what could be future streaks. But speaking of that, though, as the strategy starts to come into play, KaLaNi quickly left in a 1v4. And this round most likely going to go the way of Midnight. This would be not just map point, but also series point as well. Keep in mind, map number 1, as the kill comes in from Phantomz. Map number 1 was actually won by the guys on Midnight Gaming. They won that one in a dominant fashion, 250 to just 129 seconds on hardpoint Arden Forest. So with now a 5-3 lead, if you're Bound, you just pretty much got dominated on offense in that last round, or got dominated on defense. Other team was on offense. And now you have the objective in your hand. What do you do? Which bomb site do you rotate to? They played pretty solid when it came down to one of their prior offensive rounds. Kind of let the kills come to them. But it looks like they're making their way toward B. But watch out for these pre-nades. They've got to be wary. They've got to be careful of them. kLoH actually does take out Pemby, but here comes the nade, and here comes the snipe. ProFeeZy able to drop one onto kLoH. We talk about the fast-paced kills. 3 of these are coming in at the end from Glory, as he will seal the deal single-handedly. There's 2, and here is the 3rd. That player expression, I think, is the perfect way to describe exactly how Bound have got to be feeling. Probably a big sigh after losing one like that, where you thought maybe, okay, we lose one player. They actually find first blood right with a nade. They find first blood with a nade. But it's all about the kills that come at the end. Glory, like we said, a hat trick, a quick 3-piece to close things out. The man on the flank was sneaky, and he finishes off 10-5 in map number 2. Along with, I think, he drops 35 kills in map number 1. Definitely Glory. One of my favorite kind of top semi-pro players to be watching out for. But just keeping in mind of that, let's talk about the rounds that actually kind of took way in our box score here for some Game 2 Search and Destroy here on St. Marie Dumas. We obviously saw Bound have a pretty decent kind of beginning. They take down round number 2, but it was about the rounds on offense that really the guys from Bound were struggling with. Whether it was on A, whether it was on B, they were just kind of getting they're a little bit too late. It was overall just the control that Midnight was gaining off the start, which we kind of saw in a hardpoint as well, right? We saw Bound early on in the first hardpoint on Arden Forest. They were having some pretty good moments. Like we were talking about how they were up after the first set of rotations with a pretty decent lead. I think it was like 60 to maybe like 25, 29, something along those lines. And then just over time, Midnight started to kind of gain control. They were finding spawns early. And once they held overall spawn control, once they held early hill control, it was just impossible to break them. And I think they were kind of taking strategies like that into the Search and Destroy as well, saying, hey, if we can get into this bomb site, if we can get into this kind of square area, we're not going to let them invade this spot. Like, we're always going to have a position to trade. We're always going to have someone there to kind of counter a kill that comes forward. So I think what really kind of comes down to this matchup, as we obviously see the guys from Midnight move on to the next round, was if you're Bound, you go back to the drawing board, you see what was wrong, but it was just a matter of them kind of single-handedly being taken down by one member, one kind of strategy that was coming in from the opposite end. And I think for them, I think it's a matter of just kind of, like I said, going back to the drawing board, going back maybe going through like a blueprint and just saying, okay, hey, in this situation, we need to have this strategy ready. In this situation, we need to have this strategy ready. And I think it's just a matter of, playing with each other over time and getting a lot of those strats is obviously how you earn a lot of that information. Like we said, we've been discussing and saying how often Midnight have been playing with each other.